Welcome and get ready to dive into the thrilling world of investments, where numbers dance, money talks, and the unexpected always keeps us on our toes. Today, we're going to hear the cold, hard truth about the monstrous debt problem haunting the United States, as revealed by the renowned investor and founder of the largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, Ray Dalio. Brace yourself for the impending debt crisis that could send shockwaves through our economy. The news he's delivering isn't for the faint of heart. It's time to face the harsh reality lurking behind the scenes. To Ray Dalio.
In my opinion, we are at the beginning of a very classic late big cycle.
Whether we like it or not, we're headed towards it. The burning question is how fast it's going to hit us and how it's going to play out. Even though the US Congress passed a debt limit deal in early June, preventing a default from happening for the first time in US history, Ray Dalio sees it as simply kicking the can down the road, which would make the situation worse for the years to come. The massive amount of debt offerings and debt monetization prompt him to ponder, what is the money really worth? And how does it impact the supply and demand of money? What Ray Dalio really means is that the US government has been spending more money than they've been taking in for a long time. To cover the spending spree, the government relies on selling boatloads of bonds, which are basically IOUs handed out to investors. Over the years, it has become a vicious cycle where the larger the annual deficit becomes, the more the government has to borrow just to keep their heads above water. By the way, Ray Dalio is not the only person who is ringing the alarm bell. Recently, we also covered Stanley Druckenmiller's hard landing scenario for the US economy. Druckenmiller has a similar view that the US debt problem is going to hit the economy hard. You can check out that episode here. Now back to Dalio. He sees three worrisome factors that are converging. Firstly, it is the rapid rise in interest rates, which could potentially trigger the second factor, an economic downturn. Additionally, he is also worried about the presence of internal conflict as significant wealth disparities within the country. Right now, the US is sitting on a mind-boggling $32 trillion of debt. $24.5 trillion of that, or approximately 78%, is deemed as public debt, meaning it's cash borrowed from domestic and foreign investors. Ray Dalio predicts that the government will find it difficult to seek sufficient buyers for newly issued bonds. As you can see, the economics of a country aren't all that different from the economics of an individual or a company. Just like you and me, a country can't spend more than it earns without racking up some serious debt. And when you have debt, you definitely have to pay it back. However, countries possess the ability to print their own currency, which produces a crucial question. Is there a limit to this practice of printing money, or does it perpetuate an endless cycle? It is common sense that the more debt you have, the more you'll eventually have to pay back. A few years ago, when interest rates were very low, the government didn't have to pay much in interest on borrowed money. However, interest rates have climbed more than 5% in a year. So now, any debt taken on by the government will be much more expensive to repay compared to debt obtained in the past. Going into debt can have costly consequences in the future. Firstly, the amount of debt can quickly grow, and the interest payments become heavier. This leaves the government with less money to spend on infrastructure or education, for example, thus weakening the overall economy. Ray Dalio is concerned about the United States' ability to grow its economy fast enough to make the debt worthwhile, especially given current interest rates.
What's happening now as we have to sell all this debt is we then do have enough buyers. There are changes now in terms of the quantities in the world that are being held by large investors around the world that have lost money in these treasury bonds and so on. And then there are geopolitical changes which are having an effect.
Let's look at the people and countries that own a large portion of US debt. This includes banks and governments. The problem is that some entities own too many US treasuries, which are losing value since the Fed started to hike interest rates. Everyone has witnessed how Silicon Valley Bank experienced significant losses when the value of their US Treasury bonds dropped due to rising interest rates, leading to the bank's collapse. But it's not just companies that are affected. Countries like Japan, China, and the UK also hold large amounts of US Treasury bonds. The concern is that if the US continues its excessive spending and floods the market with more treasuries, there might not be enough buyers for them, especially if other countries already have too many US treasuries on their books. This would create an oversupply of treasuries and a decrease in demand, causing problems. The risk here is that things can spread widely across the globe, hitting banks in other countries and even central banks worldwide. Ray's mention of supply and demand imbalance can get worse when the Treasury starts to issue more debt after the debt ceiling deal. We also talked about this topic in another video recently, and you can check that one out right here. We now know that the Federal Reserve is going to reduce their balance sheet at the same time that the Treasury is going to issue more debt. The Fed's action will further drain liquidity from the market and could potentially break more things in the system. This risky situation could have severe consequences. And as this story is still unfolding and the risks are increasing, we will be keeping an eye out for you and will make sure to keep you all updated. With skyrocketing interest rates, banks are paying higher interest to depositors, but they face a predicament. They can only earn a measly 1% on bonds until maturity, resulting in losses. Additionally, the value of these bonds has plummeted so much that banks don't want to sell them. This unsustainable situation is made worse by geopolitics. Tensions between the United States and other countries, especially China, add complexity to the problem. China has been reducing its purchases of US treasuries, causing concerns about potential sanctions and their impact on US bonds. If countries decide to sell off their holdings, it becomes a major problem. Ray Dalio sheds light on how geopolitical tensions and potential sanctions may cause countries to distance themselves from US debt in the future, exacerbating the problem for US treasuries. If demand weakens, two outcomes are possible. Interest rates need to be increased or the Federal Reserve must step in and purchase bonds. We have observed this scenario play out over the past few years. However, forcing countries to sell their bonds creates a dilemma. Either significantly higher interest rates or central banks printing large amounts of money. This delicate balance carries grave consequences that require the utmost of caution. Even if interest rates are nearly zero and the cost of borrowing becomes minimal, if there is an imbalance between supply and demand for bonds, the Federal Reserve will have to step in. They will print money and purchase these bonds, effectively redistributing wealth. The United States is undeniably confronted with a significant debt problem. The crucial question now is whether this issue can be resolved or if it will escalate into a full-fledged debt crisis. It's a critical juncture we currently find ourselves in. I would personally be interested in hearing your thoughts on this matter, so please leave your comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please support us by liking it and subscribing to our channel. Stay tuned as the journey continues in the next exciting episode.